Hi, everybody. My name is Kenny. I'm on the community team here at Whatnot. I've been part of Whatnot now for just a little over 3 years. And so it's been a wild and fun ride. You get to see sort of the evolution of the app and sort of the direction we're heading has been very exciting. And within my role here, I'm on the community team. And so I work with Kiyomi and Casey. Some of you have met or seen before elsewhere. Our team is really focused on developing programs that help sellers connect one-on-one, like that human-to-human interaction, while also educating sellers and providing them with resources and tools and inspiration so that they could be as successful as possible on the app. We do that a lot of different ways, right? So like we had a meetup last weekend in Tampa. Casey and I were out in Tampa. We had House of Coop out there and it was unbelievable. We had about 200 sellers,
Wow.
actually exactly two. If you include Casey and I, we had a total of 200 people there at Top Golf, and it was so much fun, right? And so
Wow.
I was at the Whatnot Sellers live stream. I'm interested in hosting a meetup. This is where I'm located. And if it makes sense, we'll get back in touch with you. And we also host webinars, especially for new sellers. So if you're a new seller, chances are you got an invitation to join our new seller growth events, which are virtual growth events that include a networking component. So we do all that kind of thing. And then also, of course, we have this channel here, Whatnot Sellers. This is our official seller facing account for sellers on Whatnot. So if this is your first time on this channel, on this account, and you're a seller, I recommend dropping a follow and bookmarking some of the shows that are already listed. Like I know next week we have a really cool one where we're going to be talking about show production quality. So audio, video, staging, all that sort of thing. So all kinds of cool content coming out of this channel. And then of course, all the shows that happen here are also going to be available to you on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you search for Whatnot, you go to the official Whatnot channel, there is a playlist within that channel that's called Whatnot Sellers. And so if you missed something here today, don't worry, you can go back and watch the replay. All right, that's a lot about me. Let's turn it over to our lovely guest. So I actually met Michelle, I think it was September, out in LA at a seller meetup. And I was really interested, inspired by her story and just got to know her. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could share that story sort of, with many folks? And so we've got about 450 people here. Michelle, why don't you just, before I get sort of into the meat and potatoes of the interview, why don't you introduce yourself? The thing, most of the people here know you, and that's great. But for those who
That's
don't, who
awesome.
are you? And maybe just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Michelle of Michelle's Deals, the Hot Mess Express. I self-branded that early on. I will always stay true to that name. So yeah, I've been on the app for about 3 years, selling actively for just a little over 2 years. So yeah, that's about it. I'm known for my live estates, live garage sales, live thrift, just out in the wild. People let me out of the house. That's, the fun part.
Shout out to you. Love it. And I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for taking the time. I spoke with you also last week. And from that conversation, I drew a lot of really interesting insights about your personal story. And I think it's an unbelievable story, almost one that you could write a book about. So I want to kind of with your permission, touch on some of the things that, we talked about. And I think, look, you've been selling online way since the early days of e-commerce. I mean, very first e-commerce platforms,
Yeah.
you were on them. What do you remember most about that period in time, right? And you told me that when you listed an item back then, you had to take a photograph with
Mhm.
35 millimeter film,
Yes.
go get the film developed, and then have a scanner and scan the photo into your computer, to list an item, right? And
Yeah.
so what was that like?
It was a process. It was, people think now listing is so difficult. I'm like, "Oh, man, this is so streamlined and
Could you
amazing."
imagine?
I mean, I make myself sound like a dinosaur, but at the same time, I kind of am. But I used to have to literally take a film photo of the items. So I'd line them up, I'd get them all the photographs, I'd take it to, Walgreens or wherever and get it all developed and then bring it home and scan it in for each item and then put the full description of each item in there in detail. And so now listing is a breeze. So I never complain about that.
I can't even imagine what that would have been
Yeah.
like. But that also means that you got to see sort of just the innovation and development in the space. Pretty cool. I mean, it's come so far in a
Right.
short period of time. You had mentioned that you had started initially back in the day selling as a way to support your family while you were raising kids. How did that experience shape the way you think about work and risk and resilience? Just what was that like, right? Because we'll get into it a little bit later, but you had 7 that you were raising.
Yeah.
I think 4 of your own, right? Or
Yeah. 4 of my own.
4 of your own, 3 that were your sisters that you took in. So,
Mhm.
7 children.
Yeah.
Chat, that's a lot of children. And yeah, what was that
Mm.
like just trying to, make it happen?
I mean, I just feel like I've always been very resourceful. I've always been an entrepreneur since like early on in my life. So I just never took the fact ran my own daycare and preschool. So I was like, I needed something extra to bring in some more income. And that's when I was, the reselling thing came about. And I was like, that sounds really fun. And so that was a way to just anytime I needed extra money for maybe a sport or something that my kids needed, yearbooks, I'd just sell some things on eBay back in the day. So I just never took no for an answer. Basically, I'd be like, I can make it happen no matter what it is. So I mean, that's kind of just been me throughout my life.
It's amazing. And also, that wasn't it, right? You ran a daycare and a
Yeah.
preschool
Yeah.
for more than 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And so what sort of lessons from leading that sort of business carried over into how you're running sort of your business today on Whatnot?
I do think, I started that business. I was only 20 years old. I started my own daycare. And I think just from early on, and I did it because I wanted to be home with my kids. I didn't want someone else being their primary role model. And I quit nursing school to do that. So, and I've never looked back. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I've raised a bunch of people's kids with them. So I think that's an amazing opportunity in itself. But I think, just that being able to, when you own your own business, being self-motivated. I think that has helped me greatly in, doing what I do with Whatnot now full time. I've always taken my job seriously. I take this very seriously. I put a lot of pride into what I do, whether it was raising other people, helping people raise their kids or selling things on Whatnot. So I think that's where it kind of crosses over.
I love it. And shout out to the person who rated us. Thank you for that. We're just getting into Michelle's story. By the way, chat, follow Michelle if you don't already. Not only is she a really fun seller to watch, and she's very entertaining, and her format's very unique, and we'll talk about it. But she also hosts seller support shows. And so, like, you can bookmark those. And if you're a new seller, I'm sure she'd be happy if you just popped in and asked her a question. And she's really down to help. And that is part of her success. And we're going to talk about that as well. Let's talk about kind of like early days for you on Whatnot, taking that initial leap into this platform. You told me that you first found Whatnot through a TikTok video,
I
right?
do.
What caught your attention and what made you go from just watching that video to saying, okay, I'm going to apply to be a seller? Like, I want to
Right.
do that.
Yeah. I because of, always being a reseller, I did buy storage lockers occasionally. So I watched a lot of storage locker buyers on TikTok because it was very, TikTok is very intriguing. They pull you in and they show you kind of like, look what we got. And I was watching Locker Blockers. Shout out. Um, I loved watching their videos, and so they, one of their videos, they said we're going to be selling all of this stuff in this unit, on this new platform called Whatnot, and I was like, ooh, that sounds amazing, and so. I was like immediately downloaded it and went in and watched because out of curiosity of how much they were gonna get to sell it for. Would it be more than what I was making doing what I did, and all of those things, and of course they were so entertaining that I just mostly watched them in the beginning. Yeah, that's what intrigued me.
I love it. And this
Yeah.
was like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Three. It was a little over 3 years ago when I first started watching them. Yeah.
Now, you also mentioned to me, and this is something that, I've heard from a lot of newer sellers that they were nervous before their first show, right? And,
Yeah.
fair enough. This is like a new way
Mhm.
to sell. This is not
Yeah.
like a static e-commerce platform where you just list it. You don't have to show your
Right.
personality or anything. So,
Right.
like, I want to maybe you tell me about that, your nerves there, and then how you overcame them. And then also, like, if there are new sellers here that haven't gone live yet, and I'm sure there are, what would you tell them?
Of course, early on, I was super nervous, and I decided, after watching for a while, that I, would give it a try. And it was me behind the camera, and I was facing my shelves, so I was doing shelf scans, and I felt like I was, kind of like in this interview. People know me; they're like, "Michelle is so calm right now." I was trying to be very calm, and very like professional, and I'm the hot mess express, so like I'm constantly cracking jokes, and I wasn't really showing that part of my personality, I feel. And first of all, I only had 3 people in my room, so really didn't matter, like, nobody was there, but my first couple shows were a bomb. I don't think I sold a single thing either show, and then, I sold, a nominal amount, like, probably I think it was somewhere in, like, the 20s, 20-something dollars my 3rd show, and then I would do, $100 here and there because I persisted, of course, But about 6 months in is when I decided through some encouragement through other sellers to turn the camera and start doing some different things like going out live thrifting and live garage sales and things like that. That's when it really took a turn for me. And that would be OMGYG and Fancy Cat. They did a train called Live Thrifting Across America. And that's when things really started picking up for me, doing those live. I found my niche. I found what I love to do. And that's when my personality really came out. And people really got to know me and not the business like Michelle. So yeah,
Love that.
yeah.
It's such an interesting story, and then also how I remember you told we'll get into it, I think it's later in the questions, but, like, how you went to a meetup with some sellers and how that was
Mhm.
also a turning point for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But tell me about, like, your first few shows. You mentioned, you did not have immediate success on this
Mhm.
platform.
Absolutely.
And look, I think that that's a really important lesson because, like, fast forward 3 years, you're having a tremendous amount of success on this
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, the importance of consistency in terms of
Right.
being a whatnot seller?
Absolutely. That's, consistency it's also, another thing we had talked about when I decided to stick it out and to really give it my all. That was the huge turning point for me as far as my business going from just being okay and I would, part-time, a good enough for part-time, like an extra income or something to a full-time job for me was as soon as I made that decision to make it a consistent thing and have a schedule that I was going to keep. And I was selling 5 days a week and I decided that I was going to give it my all. So I tell everybody in my chat shows, anybody that I do mentors with that be consistent. This is a social media app. You have to be visible in order to grow. And if you're not visible, you're not in chat, and even when you're off your own shows, you're not engaging with other people, buyers, sellers, all the things that's going to make your success take a little bit longer to gain.
So true, and I see so many people in the chat are agreeing or saying, "I agree," or "That's so true," and I
Yeah,
think that really resonates with most sellers.
yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges early on, and how did you push through them, or how did you overcome them?
I mean, as for everybody, I think it's really fun to go out and sell a ton. And I feel like, once things started picking up a little bit for me, it was like, wow, I just sold, 150 items at this sale and that's amazing. And then coming home to the reality of I got to pack all of this. I think that, I tell people new, just pace yourself. Don't go all in right off the bat because you're going to be in shock. So I think, for everybody getting that groove of your packing cadence in order to keep your shipping time where it's supposed to be. I mean, I think that was the main thing for me.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing you correctly. It's like there's the sourcing part, and then there's the going live part and selling,
Right.
and then there's like the shipping part, which
Yeah.
I also have found, I go live once in a while, and yeah, I spent a good amount of time shipping after the show.
Mhm.
It was surprising to me how, like, what a critical part that is of the entire operations. So I think that, yeah, if you are a new seller and you find success like right away, some sellers do, not everyone
Mhm.
does, of course, but
Mhm.
like if you do, you might be surprised that you might want to get some help, maybe tap in like a family member or a friend and say, "Hey, can you come over? I got a bunch of stuff I need to pack out and get out." But I think also, like, as you evolve as a whatnot seller, you start to build your own operation rhythm
Right.
and your own efficiencies and kind of like your own way to do it, and you find your groove, right? So
Absolutely.
so although it might be a little bit like, "Oh my god, I have to get all these things out the door. How do I do that?" I think by
Yeah.
the time you do it 10 times, you're like super proficient at it and
I
never
do
look back.
suggest having a system in place for that. I always suggest I even show, like, my shipping station in my chat shows, just so people they don't have to do it like I do it, but just having a place and having systems in place to make it more efficient and faster. Most people are like, "I hate shipping." I'm like, I love it because it means I'm successful. I'm selling. That means, I'm making money. I'm paying my bills. So just look at it
Yeah,
like that.
I love that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kinda like closing the loop on the
Right.
sale.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a pretty good way to, like, frame it because that's somewhere you could differentiate yourself from other sellers. Like, if you pride yourself on next day shipping or top of the line packaging or a handwritten note saying thank you for your purchase. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do in in the
Right.
shipping portion of the operation that you can differentiate yourself and build sort of like your name or your brand or whatever it is, right? So I think folks who don't enjoy the shipping maybe try to reframe it as like I can do something unique in this part of the process that will, delight the people who bought stuff from me, and maybe they'll leave really good reviews or whatever. I mean, you could think about it a million different ways.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
It's a part of the process, and if you I feel like if you embrace it and you take it in, like, it's like you said, part of the what you're proud of about what you do. You can be proud of how much you can sell, but the shipping is where the things are gonna arrive safely, and I feel like that's, like, a key component into your being a successful seller because your things are arriving with care and everything. I did used to write a handwritten note with every package, but with the volume, I'm almost at 50,000 items sold. So I'm like, any new buyer gets a handwritten note and a couple little stickers from me, and it's hard to keep up with the cadence of like if I'm doing 300, 400 items a show, it's like wow, that's a lot of notes.
that's such a yeah, I love that you're doing that for your new buyers because it tells you, right, on your
Yeah,
seller hub which one's a new
yeah,
buyer.
yes,
So you're able to maybe, like, invest a little bit more in those. And you I mean, look, chat, the buyer's experience, it ends when they receive the package and they open it, and what they're holding in their hand is the thing that they bought live, and so it's a very important part of the process. So, definitely, maybe a second look at kinda, like, how your approach to shipping is and whether or not there's an opportunity there for you to level up. If you've got any questions for Michelle about any of the things that she's sort of talking through here, drop them in the chat and we will do our best to get to as many of them towards the end of the show. Okay, let's talk a little bit about you finding your format and sort of building out your niche. So I know that the first category you sort of were attracted to was storage units,
right.
right? And so, like, what about that world was interesting to you and sort of like called your name?
It was exciting for me to watch, just the thrill of the hunt. The first few people I started watching, Locker Blockers, a few others were, in the storage unit category, buying the units and then going through them. And that was I watched Noah Baller. I watched his first show. Like I was in his very first show. So like those were the kinds of things that intrigued me. So and what made me, I once I started doing that, what made me excited about whatnot, I feel like that's when my excitement was contagious and my personality was able to be where it needed to be, like my authentic self. So
I love it. And then your live estate sales or on the hunt format. So for y'all who don't haven't seen one of her shows, Michelle goes to actual estate sales and goes through the house or the estate and sort of shows you what all is there and you can buy it directly from the so it's basically like a virtual estate sale. It's a very cool format. And so how did that idea come together and why do you think viewers love it so much?
I was doing live garage sales at the time, and I happened upon an estate sale where they're like, "You come in the house." And I had never really thought about that just because of connectivity and things like that. I was like, I don't know if my internet's going to work. And you have to have connectivity to be able to do what we do. And so I went in and did it, and people loved it. And it went from there. The excitement, they're like, oh, you should do more of these, more of these. And people did love my garage sales. But now that we can't, I used to put my phone on my stand and I would flip the camera. They would stare at my yodeling pickle. And while I'm driving, and I would swipe out a chat and I would talk about like mindset things. I would just ramble because I'm good at that. But I would talk more about like gratitude and things like that. And it was fun for me to do. But so the estate sales evolved from that, the garage selling. And now I directly work with several estate sale companies. They have me come in to pre-sales and then during even and then afterwards for like ultra discounts. And I really love that aspect of it. So it's definitely grown in that area.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, it's such a fun format. Like going to an estate sale in and of itself is a fun thing to do. Like it's, 'cause you don't know what's going to be there. It's like a lot of treasures and knickknacks and all kinds of. So Michelle essentially takes you along for that journey. And, if you see something you like, you can buy it. It's very, very cool.
I
It's
love it.
kind of like,
Yeah.
if you're into garage sales, storage units, estate sales, like these things are all like, you don't know what's going to be there.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's true treasures, like
Yeah.
actual collectible things that are worth a lot of money. Sometimes there are things that you're not going to find anywhere else and they're so unique. And so it is a lot of fun. Let's talk about the turning point because I thought this was a very interesting, when we chatted the other week, I thought this was kind of like a very important moment in your journey, right? So you had started doing whatnot. Again, you have several kids that you're supporting and taking care of. And there was a time where you weren't putting in all the effort and it wasn't giving you all of the returns and you seriously considered going back to a full-time job and kind of stopping whatnot, right?
I did. Yeah.
And I remember around the same time you had met up with a bunch of other sellers in the real world, like you guys all
Mhm.
flew out and met each other. And one of the sellers there said, "Hey, like you should really give it your all and see what happens," right? And you did, and so like you never looked back, and so that was
Mhm.
like a critical time. Tell me about that. What did he or she say, and why did it
Yeah.
have such an effect on you?
It was a meetup, I think it was in Ohio. I've been to several, but someone who's become one of my real life best friends now, his name is Smorgasbord USA, go follow him. He was there at the meetup. There was, I think, like 9 or 10 of us, I'm not sure exactly, but and then we met other people up like at the flea market that we went to. We were sitting at the kitchen table and I was like, "Yeah, I really need to go after we get back. I'm not really making much money right now. I need to be able to pay my bills, so I'm probably gonna look for a full-time job." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, I need to make money. I gotta pay my bills." He's like, "Well, then maybe you could go back and you say, I've given it everything and I've really committed myself, then get a full-time job." He goes, "But I don't know if you've given it your all yet." And I was like, that's the gist of it. He may have thrown some curse words in there and said I was cuckoo and all the things. Anyways, but that's the gist of the conversation. And then I said, "You know what, you're right." And I came home and that's when I decided the consistency thing, like we were talking about earlier. I was like, I will consistently commit to being on this app at least 4 days and sometimes 5 days a week, just because, the packing needs to be fit in there as well. But I was working 7 days a week doing whatnot, whether it was out selling or packing orders. So I did see things pick up very like, they was great. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm able to pay my bills, not a problem. This is awesome." And then within a few months, I looked at my analytics and I was like, I actually can almost qualify to be a premier seller. And I was like blown away. I just remember calling him and like being like, "Oh my gosh, can you believe this?" And so at that point, I decided I was going to go for it and try to do Premiere. The unfortunate thing for me was I was so far behind in quality listings that it was a percentage game. I just had to pull that percentage up. But so it took me, probably a month more than it should have, but I made it. And so yeah, that was pivotal for me, for sure.
That's so cool. I mean, it's amazing what one person's words, the effect that they can have,
Yeah.
right? And especially when they're well intended. And also, like, it's such a cool story because it's like I almost gave up, right, on
Yeah.
whatnot, and then said, okay, I'll do everything. I'll go all in and see what happens.
Yeah.
And what happened is, as you mentioned, you sold about 50,000 items so far. So
Yeah.
it's incredible. And so shout out to you too, right? Because I'm sure that that was a scary time, right? Where you're like, do I need to go find a full-time job? Do I have to go back and work for somebody and collect a
Right.
paycheck? Or is this going to work out for me? And you took the risk and it seems to have paid off really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think
Been
that's
great.
cool. I think that's just a great story.
Yeah.
So look, for new sellers who are out there who are feeling sort of half in, half out, I don't know, maybe it's for me, maybe it's not. What advice would you give them, sort of grounded in your experience?
Okay. I don't I contrary to what people wanna hear, I don't think that this type of selling, the social media selling is for everyone.
Mm,
I think that people, everybody thinks it looks so easy and everything. It is not. There's a lot that goes into it, but I do think if you really wanna make it work, that, you can do anything you put your mind to as long as you really commit and you stay true to just be yourself because a lot, like I said, when I in the beginning, I feel like I wasn't picking up trajectory because I was trying to be professional Michelle instead of the real me and things like that. So I consistency, consistency, consistency. Show up no matter what. Just make a schedule for yourself. And if you're really going for full time, you have to make yourself accountable to you and wake up excited about it. This is an exciting opportunity and it's all about the way you look, you frame it in your own mind. You can either, I don't want to ever work a job that I dread ever again in my life. I love what I do. I love whatnot. So I'm excited every day, whether I have to get up and pack orders, whether I have to go out in the wild and explore and find amazing deals for people. So yeah, mine's
Yeah, mindset is everything. And it's so cool. Our mission here is to enable people to turn their passions into a business
yeah.
and to connect people through commerce. And your story really epitomizes that.
Mm,
So, and let's talk about the connection part because you shared with me that you mentor a lot of sellers, right? You don't do this for money. You just do this because you do this. And
mm,
I'd like to understand sort of like what drives you to share knowledge with other sellers because look, I know that community is a tremendous asset if you're a whatnot seller, but some sellers might look at it as like, well, that's wild. Why would I mentor someone who is my competition? Right.
right.
So there's
Right.
like one sort of perspective here.
Right.
But a lot of the more successful sellers that I've spoken to really embody the spirit of community, really try to like become friends and meet other sellers and like help other sellers. And you do that. Like that's a big part of what you shared with me. What motivates you to do that? And why do you think that it's beneficial?
So early on, I feel like people would come to me because of what I what I do is unique to what a lot of people do. So they would watch and be curious about the processes and how do I get to go to these estates? Do I ask permission? All the questions that people have in regards to that. And I found myself spending hours each day answering messages through whatnot. And eventually, I mean, I was like, I do have a mentorship like that people can I sell that they could do a one-on-one with me now. And it goes beyond that though. I mean, I do that and then I have literally became friends with a lot of the people that have had that with me. And so I do a Zoom, like a FaceTime, actually it's through Whatnot. It's I co-host them and I answer all their questions. But the reason that I do it is I feel like this app is everyone could be successful on here. There's enough out there for all of us. And it doesn't benefit me to gatekeep. People could find things out and they will find things out. Why would I not share and help other people be successful? It makes me feel good to watch them flourish and be successful in what they do. So that's my reason why I do it. Makes me feel good.
That's a really good why.
Yeah.
I love that. I think you're right, and think that there's plenty of room for everyone here, and that a rising tide lifts all ships. And shout out to you. Look, can you share one story maybe where you mentored somebody and then they achieved some level of success and what that meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this one. There's a few people that I have mentored who have been just taken off and they're doing really well. And I'm of course very proud of them. And we continue to like they still come back to me for questions and stuff like that. And I'm happy to help. But I would say there's a few that I'm gonna throw out there. Shadow Sells. She came to me when she was new on the app. She had never sold at that, or she had just had one show at that point. She was in a deep hole with like a shipping issue. She was she's like, oh my gosh, I owe all this money. I had mentored her and she has taken off. She is really good at what she does. Most people call her my mini me. So I'm very proud. She's become my Whatnot daughter, and one of them. Her and Tranquility Antiques are like my Whatnot kiddos. And then there is Treasure Seeker. She's done amazing. She's picking up trajectory, and she just gets out there and does it no matter what. And then the Happiest Spot. Those are three of I would say the top ones that I really see taking my advice and really trying to run with it. But there's many more. I'm proud of all of you guys.
That's so amazing. Nothing like helping somebody else succeed, right? And I do believe it comes back tenfold. And by the way, a lot of those folks are in the chat. They're your mentees, and they're showing some gratitude there too. Let's talk about family and resilience. You've raised 7 kids, right?
Mm,
And 4 of your own, 3 of your sisters,
right.
all while building a business. How do you manage that balance between family and entrepreneurship? And again, when you told me the story, I was just beside myself because you do so much. It's such a tremendous amount of responsibility, and you do it so gracefully, and you're like still so calm and collected, and like how in the world do you manage all that?
So now it's much easier. Most of my, all of my kids are actually grown. I have 2 grandkids too. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old grandson. But it was chaos in my house all the time, especially because back when they were little, I had my full-time daycare and preschool too. But you just do. You don't think about it. You just keep going. You just do what you got to do and make the best of everything you have and consistently be grateful. Every single day, I remind myself of all the things I'm grateful for, and then the rest of the day seems to be, more things that to be grateful for happen. That's always what I preach. I preach that all the time. So I had to put that out there. But I'll say within the year of me getting Premiere and all of that, I did not have a good balance for a really long time. I'm not going to lie. I was all Whatnot all the time. My balance was so off. I did not spend as much time with my family as I should have. I'm finding that balance more and more now, and it's definitely helping improve my quality of life as well. So, but I'm not going to lie. I definitely found there was a time, probably a 9-month period where I was like, you couldn't find me. I was only on Whatnot. So, but I'm doing better now. So it's hard to find that balance because when you're all in and you're going gung ho and you're making good money and you're making great friends, it does become, really, it pulls you in. So, yeah.
Keep the balance and also embody gratitude is what I'm
That's,
hearing.
that's
Um,
right.
which I could do better myself. So thank you for reminding me as well. You told me that you've been an entrepreneur pretty much since you were a little kid. I think you mentioned, and I might have got this wrong, that your father worked at a car dealership, and he told you that if you ever refer someone to buy a car, that he would give you like a kickback. And I think you sold like what 5 cars in like elementary school.
Yeah, that was in elementary.
Did I
Yeah,
get
and
that
then
right?
yep, and 11 cars in middle school and 14 cars in high school.
So
So, yeah, I was hustling. It was $500 every time. I was like, I'm doing this.
That's such a cool story, and
Yeah,
shout out to your dad for, like, enabling you to hustle, like, to
a-
give you the opportunity to try to be an entrepreneur, and,
absolutely.
so I think it's interesting, right? 'Cause I feel like you kinda had the entrepreneurial, the hustle mentality, whatever you wanna call it, even from a young age, and I think that's something that people either sorta have or don't. Have you always sort of, like, had that mentality? Or like, "Oh, I can flip this and make some money," or, "I could do a little side hustle here." Has that always sort of been part of your
Absolutely.
mentality?
Yes. I've even since elementary school, I remember walking to school at like 7 years old, stopping at a little, it was called the Oliveira Egg Ranch. It was like they had like candy and they had literally sold eggs and they had 25-cent packs of like now and laters. And I would go to school and I would sell those. I would sell them for 50 cents. I would double my money. And I was known for the new candy. Michelle's got candy. So yeah, definitely that's been my whole life for sure.
Looking ahead, I guess, can you share maybe some of your top goals for next year with us?
Absolutely. This year, I've achieved crazy success, which it's still hard for me to believe. I looked at my analytics before the show, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." Um, I want to at least double what I did this year, so that'll put me up towards 7 figures. Work hard, and I do plan on hiring. I do have a one full time packer right now. I'm training someone to help with that process right now. And so another packer, I have one admin who is Tranquility Antiques. She does all my admin. She answers messages and things like that for me. I found that's very key for me because I wasn't as good at that part of it. To have someone in place for that. So hopefully I'm able to give her some more hours. She works about 10 or ish hours for me a week. I'm hoping to at least double that for her. She'll be able to make more money and I will be able to utilize her even more. So that's my goal, and to continue to do the community outreach stuff. Going to be starting a train the start of next year. That's very exciting for me. So some of those are things that I have set in mind for my next year goals.
I love that. Those are pretty awesome goals. You also have a seller support show tonight, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm gonna plug that for you,
Awesome.
since you're
Thank
being
you.
very nice and not plugging it yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Chat, if you like sort of what Michelle is sharing and you think that you could benefit maybe from some of her advice, she is doing a seller support show tonight. What is the topic of tonight's show?
Tonight is successful sales during the holiday season. So that's the topic. And some of my shows have topics. Some of them are just come in and ask me questions, whatever questions you want. But they're always fun. They're always entertaining. So I'm open to any and all questions. And I've even brought in boxes and showed people how to like morph their boxes and things like that. So it's always good.
Well, that's awesome. So, chat, you heard it here. Michelle will be going live this evening talking about holiday seller success. So, maybe jump in, introduce yourself, say hi. You never know where it might lead. Fast forward 1 year from today. What does success look like? Is it the 7-figure run rate or is it something else?
I think with that, I have also my personal goals that I'm, getting because I'm a Pilates instructor as well. Getting back, making the time that I used to make for those kinds of things is what is in my success as well. And family, I do have some awesome family trips coming up with my kids and my grands, and that those kinds of things are going to be more sprinkled in evenly throughout my life. So that not just the money, because the money is great and everything, but it doesn't bring you the full happiness that like your family does. So I think that's going to be big because this last year it wasn't so much in there. So yeah,
What a great answer. I love that. Okay, closing reflection, right? So, for the sellers that are watching here, whether they're brand new or whether they're seasoned, what's the one action that you would challenge them to do this week to grow their business on Whatnot?
I would say if your goal is to grow in this business, to challenge yourself to schedule out your shows. I tell people schedule out. I like to see at least 9 in your queue. 9 is my magic number because it's, and then give people something to bookmark. So every time that you go on, that they have something else to look forward to. Also, something that I preach about is in your profile. When somebody views your profile, make sure that the first thing they find out about you or the second thing, it can be like the first 2 things is that what you sell. What are you going to bring to me in the future? Why do I want to bookmark your shows? Why, if they were intrigued enough to look at your profile, that means they may be future buyers for you. That's your chance to pull them in and to get them to come to your shows and be an amazing buyer or support system for you in the future. So those would be the 2 things. Be consistent, schedule some shows out and show up. Just keep showing up no matter what, no matter if you feel like it or not. Get on, do the thing. And the more you do it, the easier it gets and the better you become.
Wow, that's such a wisdom, right? Because I've done like, look, I've been in a show before where I'm like, oh, this seller's cool, and then let me check out their profile. And so I tap on their profile, no shows scheduled, and
Mhm.
nothing in their bio.
Yeah.
You lost me. You had an
Yeah.
opportunity to get me, and you
Yeah.
lost me, right? And
Yeah.
so what Michelle is saying is take advantage of that canvas. Like,
Mhm.
promote yourself there. That's your place to promote yourself. It's literally like a blank canvas or a billboard that's yours. And so use it to convey something that you think people would like, or whatever, right? Like just
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
something like
Agree.
yeah, have a profile picture, have your bio filled out with some cool stuff, and have some shows scheduled and have some things in your shop, right?
Yeah.
Having all of those things in place builds trust and allows people to be like, oh, okay, this seller is legit, right? I want to follow them, I want to bookmark them. So great advice. I love it that it's also kind of like a basic thing, right? But like I
Yeah.
think enough people don't do it that it's worth talking about. So thank you. Look, we got a bunch of questions from the chat. Chat, here we go with your questions. What we're gonna do is take about, I don't know, 12 questions here. We'll try to do maybe like a rapid fire. And then also I'm gonna ask Hiomi or Casey if we could find somebody to raid that will wrap the show with a raid as we usually do. So first question comes from Sacred Voice Crystals. She's asking, so just show up regardless of who is there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Show up whether there's one person or 100 people in your room, and just that's your platform. Just take that time and condition yourself to not focus on that number. It doesn't, all it takes is one person to start buying your stuff, and then that person can possibly tell another person, and so on and so forth. So just show up regardless.
Okay. Just Dan 70 is asking, do you prefer face on screen or face off screen?
Honestly, I prefer off from my own self. And when I'm at the estates, I am off screen unless I'm showing like a blanket or something and I have to be in front of the camera. But I feel like focusing on the items and in that, when I'm out in the wild, I feel like it's easier to view the items when I do it that way. And I can run things faster as opposed to me showing front camera, So that's just my own preference. But I do, my seller support and things like that, I do face the camera. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing to double click on because a lot of new sellers, like we talked about, have some anxiety or nerves about going
Mhm.
live.
Right.
And you can 100% go live and not show your face if you're nervous. I've gone live many, many times and I don't think I've ever done a front face. Like, not because I'm nervous, just because
Yeah.
it's better to show the product. And so, like, don't feel like if you're a seller and you're new and you haven't gone live, you can go live. You could just show the products. You don't, there's nowhere does it say that you have to show your
Yeah.
face.
I do suggest that people do occasionally
Yeah.
show their face so you can connect with your audience. You can connect with them. They do want that connection. They do want to see you occasionally. So I don't feel like that's
A
important.
100%. I think a mix of those two, and especially if you're a new seller, give yourself some grace. And next question comes from Fluffy1094. What tools do you need when you first started? I've heard multiple devices, tripods, lighting. What do you say to that? I mean, I would say just a phone, but what do you say?
Well, I mean, you can start with just a phone, and definitely you always need an external battery pack. Okay, no matter what. I like this one. I have it right here. Like something like this. This is a big mamma jamma. Let me tell you, she's large and in charge. But this is like 80,000 megahertz or something, and she stays charged forever. I love this one. But anyway, you don't always need this much. But I go on for anywhere from 5 to 9 hours, depending. So I have to have that. That's number one. If your phone dies, your show's over. So when I'm out, I have a whole bag full. I actually, in my seller support shows, I have done shows where I show in my tool bag. But I say a tripod, your phone, and a battery pack is the main three things you need to get started in live sales, like out in the wild.
Yeah. And like I said, chat, we're doing a show next week where we're going to talk about that particular thing in great detail. So, like, the do's and don'ts and things like that, and ring lights and steady camera and
Right.
having a background that is, well, not a disaster, and all that sort of stuff. So make sure you bookmark that show next
I
Wednesday
love
and a
it.
week from today. We'll be talking about all that stuff, which is really interesting stuff. But look, one of the beautiful things about Whatnot is that all you truly need to get started is your phone.
Right.
And everybody already has that. So if you think about, like,
Yeah.
if you were going to open up a brick and mortar store, think about the investment required. You got to find the space. You got to pay the rent, the first, last, and deposit. You got to get insurance. You got to fill the store with inventory. You got to like Wi-Fi and all like the expenses. You're deep in debt before you've made your first sale. And here it's like you can start your business, just go hit that go live button. That's all. And so like there's like zero overhead, which I think is like one of the most compelling parts about being a Whatnot seller. Next question comes from photo page 11. What is Premier Seller?
Premier seller just means you hit certain thresholds that Whatnot, if you look it up, you go to the Whatnot help page, you can see all the thresholds, but some of them are you have to maintain a $50,000 per a 3-month span in sales. You have to maintain your integrity with your shipping has to stay within, a certain percentage perimeter. Your customer service has to be within a certain percentage perimeters. I'm going to say it's near perfect. You have to like maintain certain really high standards as far as Whatnot goes. You have to maintain you can't have any community violations and things like that. So those are just some of the key components to a premier seller status.
Yeah, and thank you, Kiyomi, for pinning. So, like, the website is help.whatnot.com. If you've never been to this website, I definitely recommend bookmarking it. Any question you have, go there first, right? Like, it's basically set up like a search engine. So there's a search bar. You type in what, in this case, you would type in Premier Shop, and it'll drop a bunch of articles. And these are official articles from Whatnot, right? This is not like this is legit information, and it'll basically spell it out for you. So whether it's that or want to learn about promote tools, whatever it is that you have a question about. Also, by the way, as a buyer or a seller, 99 times out of 100, you're going to be able to self-serve your own answers, and that can prevent you reaching out to customer support. Could take time and back and forth. Like, do that only if everything else fails. And I think that help.whatnot.com is definitely going to be your friend.
Yes.
Okay. Next questions comes from zmonte10. Where do you recommend purchasing shipping supplies in bulk? I'm going to be hosting my first show as soon as I have supplies on hand.
Okay. I buy all my bubbles, my bubble wrap, my tape from American Bubble Boy. I just found the quality is the best that I've in my experience. And boxes, I suggest priority shipping boxes from the USPS. You can have them directly delivered to your house. And for the things that have to go ground shipping, I would say recycle as much as possible. Tell your friends and family what you do. You can get a lot of free boxes. People order a lot online. And so you'd be surprised at how many people will save boxes for you. But there are some other, big box companies you can get those kinds of things from. But those are my main sources.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. I mean, yes, great answer. I would also say like zmonte10. Yeah, just go live and like seriously boxes. I have literally gone to the back of a Dollar General and taken boxes that they flat packed that they were going to send to recycling
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, can I grab some of these?" And they're like, "Yeah, take them all, please. Get them out." Like they're happy for you to take those boxes. And so and I also do keep my Amazon boxes for use in then and so like there's a lot of ways you don't have to have like the perfect box or the perfect bubble wrap for your
Right.
first show. I would almost say like never mind all of that, just go live and you'll figure out the rest.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of sellers sometimes are putting a lot of unnecessary stress on themselves. Like I need to have the perfect inventory or the perfect camera angle or the perfect, I don't know, packaging stuff, whatever. Like, and it's keeping them from getting that first show under their belt. Just say like, hey, don't sweat all that stuff. Just go live. Like nothing terrible is going to happen and you'll learn a lot. And your first show anyway isn't going to be your best show most likely. And so just learn from it and like keep going and then realize, oh yeah, I should get a ring light or, oh yeah, maybe maybe I will invest in a tripod or like whatever, but you don't need all of that stuff to start. And I think that's an important point.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Next question comes from Dig It Up Records. Do you get permission before filming on location at estate sales?
No. It's in the now I work with most of the ones I go to and they know me and they obviously call me and invite me. However, in the beginning, absolutely not. I would rather ask for forgiveness and permission because they're going to be off put by the thought of it and they're going to overthink it as well. I would say just do it. And nobody knows who you're talking to initially, but what will talk is the money. When they see that, they would see that by the time they would really notice, I got 50, 100 things on the hold table or in my bag. And they're like, oh, you go, girl. Like, like money talks, right? So,
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm surprised by your answer. Would have bet you were gonna say, yeah, 100%. I asked for permission, but I'm here for it. That's cool. Whatever works. I guess you're right. I guess once you're like, well, I just bought the whole house, so
right. Yeah.
you're like, I don't think they're gonna mind.
Exactly. And most of the time they're like, yes, will you come back?
Yeah, seriously.
What can
All
I
right.
get your
And
number?
by the way, I'm sure at this point you've made relationships with a lot of
Yeah.
these estate sale
Yeah.
companies and you get first pass and maybe early
Right.
access to the stuff. Great question though. Just Dan70 is asking, would you suggest changing your username to better reflect the product you sell?
I mean, it can't hurt. I do think having an easy username for people to read is very key in chat and everything because I'm sure people have been at my shows and see me get tripped up on names, and I like to say them quickly. I like to give people recognition. So I don't think it could hurt. I think it could be helpful if you're selling sneakers, like have a name that's, reflects or so on and so forth.
But maybe more importantly, use that real estate on your profile. So if
Absolutely.
if your username isn't reflective of what you sell, we'll definitely use your bio to communicate what
Yes,
you sell and have
absolutely.
some shows scheduled with some thumbnails that also communicate that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, amazing. Look, I got one last question, but I'll take this one. This one comes from SNT Coin is asking, are these sessions recorded to view later? Great question. Yes, they are recorded and we do post them usually a day or two after the fact. So this one will probably be up on Friday and it'll be up on our YouTube channel. And so you can go to YouTube, search for Whatnot. You'll see the official Whatnot channel. You can subscribe to that channel. And then within that channel, there's a playlist that has a bunch of Whatnot seller past shows. So you can see really great interviews with other great sellers, a lot of product updates that we recently did with some product managers. There's one on there that's really great, which talks about why it's the best time to be a Whatnot seller right now. And I had our chief product officer and VP marketing on that one. So it's like really good content. If you're really interested in kind of like leaning in and digging into Whatnot, definitely recommend checking that out. Can we blow it up one time for our lovely guest, Michelle? And look, Michelle, this has been so much fun. I mean, I think your story is so inspiring, and it's just a wholesome story, and I love it. And thank you for sharing it. And the chat seems to be blowing up for you as well.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry that I didn't say hi to everyone, but hey.
it's all good. And again, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being willing to share your experience with us.
I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, what more can I say? I'm beside myself.
Well, you're. I'll tell you what. Let's try to run it back maybe in a year from now and talk about how all those goals worked out.
Oh, that would be so fun.
I'm pretty certain you'll be able to hit them.
Yeah.
So thank you again. We're gonna raid now a candy seller that goes by the name of Sugar Hill Market. Pull up, show some love. You don't have to do anything, but just show some good vibes. And yeah, with that, I will catch you next week, chat. Appreciate y'all. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.